For the time being, it's impossible for me to take my family back to the UK safely. Well, for a start, the only time that I've come back to the UK is...
Prince Harry had spent years demanding clarity from the institution he once called home. But when that clarity finally arrived, it did not come through reconciliation, apology, or compromise. It came in a sealed document bearing the authority of King Charles III. The decision concerned Archie and Lilibet, but its consequences landed directly on their father. In a single declaration, the king preserved their royal titles while permanently limiting what those titles could ever mean. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Harry opened the file in his California home. The document confirmed that Archie would remain a prince and Lilibet a princess, yet neither child would receive HRH status, taxpayer-funded privileges, or guaranteed places at major state ceremonies. HRH, meaning His or Her Royal Highness, is the formal style linked to senior royal standing. Charles had preserved the names, but sealed off the power behind them. The decision was final, deliberate, and beyond negotiation. Meghan watched him read the first page while standing beside the table. By the final paragraph, he had lowered himself into a chair. She saw the change immediately. If Harry accepted the terms, critics could say he wanted status without service. If he rejected them, others could accuse him of cutting Archie and Lilibet away from their birthright. Charles had reached the decision after reviewing a constitutional memorandum, a formal paper explaining how royal rules should apply. The king studied its warning that children raised outside Britain and beyond the working monarchy could not be promised roles they might never perform. Titles shape expectations, while working status carries duties. It also mattered because William's children were being prepared for service, not ceremony alone. The monarch signed the final page at Clarence House after his advisors left. He placed the pen beside the folder and remained still, knowing the order would be judged as discipline or rejection. One sentence carried his choice. The children's titles would be respected within the family, but any future place inside the crown would depend on residence, service, and direct participation in royal life. Harry closed the folder and looked at Meghan. "He has drawn the line around the children," he said. She did not answer, because both understood the colder truth. Charles had not stripped Archie or Lilibet of anything already recognized. He had ensured those titles could never become leverage, and the line around the children had also closed around their father. But to understand why this carefully measured decision wounded Harry so deeply, the private stakes facing every member of the family must first be exposed. The argument appeared to concern two royal titles, but beneath the constitutional language lay something far more personal. Archie and Lilibet stood at the center of competing ideas about identity, belonging, and inheritance. Harry saw their titles as protection against historical erasure. Meghan saw them as recognition of equal birthright. Charles saw them as symbols carrying obligations. None of the three could separate the words prince and princess from the wounds they had accumulated as a family. Harry could not accept the idea that his children might be treated as lesser descendants because their parents had stepped away from royal duties. To him, prince and princess were not decorative words. They were proof that Archie and Lilibet belonged to the sovereign's family, even from thousands of miles away. The sovereign is the reigning monarch, the person who heads the crown. Meghan shared his fear, but hers carried a sharper edge. Recognition once denied could become history rewritten. Meghan sat across from Harry as the silence tightened. He warned that accepting the restrictions could make the children seem royal only when the palace found it useful. She answered that rejecting the titles would let critics say the couple had abandoned Archie and Lilibet's heritage. Neither option felt clean. Both could shape how the children would one day understand their family. Charles faced the same conflict from the opposite side. At Clarence House, he asked Queen Camilla whether preserving the titles while limiting their function was compassionate or merely delaying a rupture. The Queen Consort, meaning the wife of a reigning king, told him that compassion without boundaries had already cost him years of peace. He heard the warning, but it did not ease his grief. William studied the proposed terms and thought of George, Charlotte, and Louis. The prince believed royal position could not remain separate from responsibility forever, especially when his children were being raised under expectation. He feared two standards emerging inside one family: duty for some, inherited prestige for others. Harry opened a drawer and found a photograph of Charles holding Archie as an infant. The memory made the ruling feel less constitutional and more paternal. Across the Atlantic, the king paused over a picture of Lilibet and felt the same wound from another direction. He did not question her place in the family. He feared promising an institutional future she might never choose. Harry was fighting for belonging. Meghan was fighting for recognition. Charles was fighting for a monarchy he believed had to survive beyond them all. Yet theory had not forced his hand. One request had, and that request was about to turn years of unease into an unavoidable royal crisis. Every royal rupture has a moment that later appears inevitable. For this one, it was not a public interview, a ceremonial snub, or an explosive accusation. It was a private request delivered before Lilibet's birthday. Harry asked the palace to confirm how both children would be presented at future state occasions, including whether they would receive formal precedence beside William's children. The question was direct. The reaction inside the royal household was immediate. From that moment, delay became more dangerous than decision. Harry sent the request 6 weeks before Lilibet's birthday. He wanted written confirmation that Archie and his sister would appear with full royal styling in official programs and receive ceremonial consideration as grandchildren of the sovereign. Formal precedence means the order in which royals are placed or recognized during major events. He also asked whether the children could stand on the Buckingham Palace balcony during a future national celebration, even while their parents remained outside the working monarchy. Charles read the message after dinner and stopped at one phrase: automatic ceremonial inclusion. The king circled the words, set the paper down, and asked his private secretary why a family question had been framed as an institutional entitlement. A private secretary is the senior aide who manages royal business and communication. The wording troubled him because balcony appearances signal public duty, while Harry and Meghan had chosen distance from that duty. Harry believed certainty was the only protection left. He told Meghan that informal assurances had shifted too many times, and silence could slowly empty the children's titles of meaning. She agreed. Meghan feared Archie and Lilibet might one day discover that decisions were made about them while no one defended their place. William reacted with quiet anger when briefed. The prince argued that automatic prominence would place Harry's children beside George, Charlotte, and Louis, without the expectations carried by the Wales family. He did not blame Archie or Lilibet, but he refused to separate visibility from service. Charles summoned William, the Lord Chamberlain, and Constitutional Council to a restricted meeting. The Lord Chamberlain is the senior official who helps oversee ceremonial affairs, while Constitutional Council advises on the rules governing the crown. The monarch asked whether flexibility could remain until the children were older. The answer was blunt. Uncertainty now would create a larger dispute later. The king made his choice. Family titles would remain, but they would not guarantee access, precedence, funding, or duty. Harry had demanded certainty and closed the door he hoped to secure for them. When he learned that his request had produced restrictions rather than guarantees, Harry demanded a direct conversation with the father who had signed them. The confrontation took place without cameras, aides, or carefully rehearsed statements. Harry entered believing that a direct appeal might still move his father. Charles entered knowing that any sign of uncertainty would reopen the entire question. Between them sat a slim folder containing the future boundaries of Archie and Lilibet's royal identity. Neither man raised his voice at first. But as the conversation moved from titles to trust, and from trust to old wounds, the room became a battleground between a father's authority and a son's desperation. Harry had requested complete privacy during his visit to Britain. No private secretaries remained, meaning the senior aides who normally manage royal business had been sent away. The signed memorandum lay between them, a formal document setting out the limits of the children's future position. The Duke asked whether the ruling truly protected constitutional consistency or punished Archie and Lilibet for choices made by their parents. Charles held his son's gaze. The king answered that the children were not being punished because their titles remained intact. What had ended was the assumption that a title alone guaranteed a working place inside the monarchy. That distinction mattered because public royal roles require service, residence, and accountability. It also mattered because William's children were already being raised under those demands. Harry pressed one hand against the folder. "You have created royals without a home," he said. His father replied that a royal home required presence, responsibility, and trust. The words landed hard. Harry then invoked Diana, insisting that his mother would never have accepted children carrying the cost of adult estrangement. Charles stiffened. He told his son that Diana's memory could not settle every disagreement, and private pain could not redesign the crown. The crown meant the monarchy as an institution, not merely the person wearing it. Harry asked whether the restrictions could be reviewed when Archie and Lilibet reached adulthood. The monarch said any future role would require direct commitment to Britain, not descent alone. Then came the choice. Charles told Harry he could publicly accept the clarified terms, quietly stop using the titles, or formally renounce them on the children's behalf. No fourth arrangement would be negotiated. Harry rose so quickly that his chair scraped backward. Anger flashed, then vanished beneath something colder. Every path carried a cost. Before leaving, he asked whether his father had chosen the institution over his grandchildren. Charles did not look away. He said he was protecting the institution they might one day wish to enter. Yet the king had not shaped that boundary alone, because another royal figure had pushed harder than anyone for the line Harry could no longer ever escape. Charles held the pen, but William understood the consequences more clearly than anyone. He was not merely defending current protocol. He was preparing the monarchy his own son would inherit. To Harry, that made the Prince of Wales the silent force behind the restrictions. To William, the issue was not revenge, jealousy, or punishment. It was a question the crown could no longer avoid. Could royal status survive when privilege remained visible, but responsibility disappeared? William argued during the private review that the monarchy could not support two parallel royal systems. One branch would serve publicly in Britain, while another used royal status abroad without carrying the same burden. The Prince of Wales is the title traditionally held by the heir to the throne, the person expected to become the next monarch. His concern centered on George, who would grow up knowing duty was compulsory, while watching his cousins hold similar titles without similar demands. Catherine found William alone with the memorandum late that night. A memorandum is a formal written paper used to record advice or policy. She noticed he had underlined automatic ceremonial expectation several times and asked whether the decision would destroy his relationship with Harry forever. The prince admitted the bond might already be beyond repair, but he refused to pass unresolved confusion to George, Charlotte, and Louis. William recommended preserving Archie and Lilibet's titles because removing them would look vindictive. Yet he strongly supported ending any assumption of official roles, public funding, formal precedence, or automatic inclusion. Charles hesitated. The king feared the restrictions would be read as rejection, but his eldest son warned that vague promises would be crueler, because they would create hopes the crown might never honor. Camilla confronted William privately before the final briefing. She warned that Harry would recognize his influence immediately and blame him for closing the door. The queen consort, meaning the wife of a reigning king, watched him carefully as he answered that blame was easier to carry than leaving George with a constitutional conflict created by adult fear. William placed the final paper before Charles and stepped away before the signature. The gesture mattered. The sovereign had to own the ruling, even if the future king had shaped its structure. When confirmation arrived by telephone, the prince closed his eyes. There was no triumph, only the understanding that he had probably ended any easy path back to his brother. Harry later told Meghan that William had built a wall around the future. She heard the deeper accusation at once. This was no longer only a struggle between father and son. It had become a battle between brothers over the monarchy itself. Once the restrictions moved beyond private discussion, the first consequences emerged inside Harry's home, where the titles suddenly felt less like protection and more like a trap. The palace decision was written in constitutional language, but its first real impact unfolded thousands of miles away at a family table. Harry and Meghan now had to decide how to explain a royal identity stripped of clear royal function. Every option appeared dangerous. Continued use of the titles could be portrayed as hypocrisy. Abandoning them could be portrayed as defeat. And behind the public argument waited a quieter fear. What would Archie and Lilibet eventually believe had been taken from them? Harry spread the palace document, legal notes, and 3 draft statements across the dining table after the children had gone to bed. Meghan read the restrictions twice, then focused on the absence of guaranteed ceremonial roles. A ceremonial role is an official place in a public royal event, such as a balcony appearance or state service. She said the palace had preserved the appearance of inclusion while securing the reality of distance. Meghan watched him turn to the clause governing future service. Harry saw that any working position would depend on residence in Britain, public duty, and approval from the sovereign. To him, The requirement felt like a test imposed before Archie and Lilibet could understand what they were being asked to prove. It mattered because the children could inherit royal names without inheriting any clear path back to the family that gave them those names. Their advisors had offered 3 responses: welcome the titles, condemn the limits, or remain silent. Harry rejected an attack because it could make him appear more concerned with privilege than reconciliation. Meghan resisted silence because silence could harden the palace's interpretation into permanent truth. "Has quiet dignity ever protected us?" she asked. He had no answer. Archie entered unexpectedly and asked why his parents were awake. Harry closed the folder at once and said they were discussing family matters. The child accepted the answer and left, but his presence shattered the argument. He was old enough to sense fear, yet too young to know that his own identity sat beneath every page. Harry's anger collapsed into sadness. Meghan reached for his hand, and together they approved a restrained statement recognizing the children's titles without challenging the restrictions. The wording avoided surrender, but it also avoided war. Charles read that statement the following morning. The king noticed what Harry had left unsaid and understood that restraint was not acceptance. The fallout had begun, yet no one had spoken honestly about the children themselves. Then Harry's phone rang. The call did not come from Charles, William, or a palace official, but from the one person willing to speak without a document between them, and finally break the family silence. Princess Anne did not call to defend Charles, excuse William, or negotiate on behalf of the palace. She called because she believed Harry was confusing 2 losses: institutional power and his children's place in the family. With no advisors listening and no statement being prepared, aunt and nephew spoke as relatives rather than representatives of opposing camps. What Anne told him was severe, compassionate, and impossible to dismiss. Anne contacted Harry directly and asked him to speak without staff, notes, or a record. The Princess Royal, the title traditionally given to the monarch's eldest daughter, made one condition clear. Nothing she said would be summarized for Charles. Harry accepted, then asked the question burning inside him. Had she supported the decision? Anne answered directly. She had supported clarity because uncertainty wounds children more than adults admit. Titles, she told him, could define rank, but they could not create belonging. A child might carry every royal style and still feel unwanted. Another might carry none and remain deeply loved. Harry pushed back. His fear was not a missing balcony place. It was erasure. Harry told her Archie and Lilibet might grow up believing the family had accepted them only in name. Anne did not soften her reply. The document did not stop Charles from being their grandfather, but endless warfare could. She urged her nephew to stop making every family bond depend on institutional concessions, meaning formal privileges or guarantees granted by the monarchy. Anne then asked the question no advisor had dared to place before him. Did he truly want his children bound to royal duties, or did he want them free to decide later while preserving every advantage now? Harry fell silent. He wanted distance from royal control, yet he also wanted each path kept open. The silence changed him. Anne explained that George, Charlotte, and Louis did not possess guaranteed freedom. Their titles carried expectation, scrutiny, and service before they were old enough to consent. Archie and Lilibet's limits might also shield them from obligations they never chose. Harry looked toward the garden where Lilibet was playing. For the first time, he considered that a restricted title might not be an insult. It might describe the life his family had already built. Anne ended the call with truth. Charles had defined the children's institutional position, but Harry still controlled its emotional meaning. Harry did not forgive the process. Yet he stopped searching for a way to overturn it, and began thinking like a father instead of a wounded prince. That private change remained hidden, but the decision itself was about to explode into public view through one image that captured the entire conflict. By sunrise, a private royal boundary had become a global argument about blood, duty, race, exile, and inheritance. Supporters of Harry saw 2 children being confined by decisions they never made. Defenders of Charles saw a sovereign finally separating royal identity from unrestricted privilege. Yet the debate crystallized in one specific public moment. A newspaper front page showing Archie and Lilibet beneath a split crown, with 4 words printed across the image: "Royal in name only." Commuters near Victoria Station stopped before dawn to photograph the front page. Within an hour, the split crown dominated television panels and social media. A national broadcaster opened its morning program by calling the ruling the clearest definition yet of where family ends and monarchy begins. A ruling is a formal decision presented as settled and authoritative. The phrase mattered because it turned a private family wound into a public test of royal power. Crowds gathered outside Buckingham Palace. Some argued that Archie and Lilibet should not carry titles without public duty, while others placed handwritten cards near the gates in support of them. Buckingham Palace is the monarch's official London residence and the public center of royal authority. The gathering revealed how quickly two children had become symbols for larger arguments they had never chosen. Harry saw the front page on a tablet before breakfast. His expression tightened at "in name only," because the words reduced his children to pieces in someone else's battle. Meghan reacted with anger. She said the palace's careful language had left space for cruelty, and she wanted an immediate response. Harry asked her to wait. Charles watched the same broadcast at Clarence House. When a commentator accused him of hiding family rejection behind constitutional language, the king lowered the volume but remained seated. William faced his own backlash. Supporters praised the prince for linking status to service, while critics accused him of protecting George, Charlotte, and Louis by narrowing the future of Harry's family. The palace issued one final clarification. Archie and Lilibet remained beloved members of the king's family, but royal duty could not be guaranteed by title alone. Harry stunned his advisors by refusing to attack. Instead, he approved a short statement saying his children would be shaped by character, family, and choice, rather than ceremonial expectation. The statement changed everything. It did not endorse Charles, but it ended Harry's public fight for automatic privilege. He would keep the titles without allowing them to measure his children's worth. For once, restraint proved stronger than fury. With the world still arguing over winners and losers, the final meaning would emerge not through another statement, but through what Harry chose to tell his children. In the end, Charles did not strip Archie and Lilibet of their titles, and Harry did not renounce them. The compromise satisfied no one completely, but it ended the uncertainty that had poisoned the family for years. The children remained prince and princess by birth, yet the words no longer carried automatic access to royal power. For Harry, that distinction first felt like defeat. Then, in a quiet moment far from palace walls, he understood that it could also become freedom. Harry chose to keep the titles for formal use, but he stopped treating them as promises of future office. A royal office is an official working position on behalf of the monarch. He told Meghan he would no longer demand balcony appearances, ceremonial precedence, security, or automatic duties. She accepted one condition. Archie and Lilibet would never be taught that distance from the monarchy meant they had been unwanted. Harry sat with Archie and explained that their family belonged to a British story, but no title could decide the person he must become. Archie asked whether being a prince meant living in a castle. His father smiled sadly and said it meant he belonged to history, yet he remained free to choose how much of that history would shape his life. Charles received a private message confirming that Harry would not challenge the ruling. The king read it twice, placed the phone down, and felt relief mixed with regret. He had protected the crown, meaning the monarchy as an institution, but he had not repaired the bond with his son. William learned that no legal challenge or public attack would follow. The prince understood that the future order had been secured, yet his relationship with Harry might never recover. Anne had changed the outcome through their call. She had not reconciled the brothers or healed Charles, but she helped her nephew see that preserving every privilege was not the same as protecting his children. The verdict was final. Charles won the constitutional argument, but not the victory of a father. Harry lost the power to demand an undefined royal future, yet gained the courage to stop measuring Archie and Lilibet through palace approval. Their titles became heritage, not destiny. Blood gave them identity. Service alone would give authority. The king drew the boundary. The prince resisted it. And two children inherited a legacy stripped of certainty but freed from obligation. The titles survived. The battle did not. For the first time, their future belonged not to the palace, but to them. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.